Hello my friends and welcome back. My name is Hannah and I have maybe filmed this video 7 times, 8 times, more than I care to count. So this, I hope, is going to be the last of it. I keep getting feedback through my mic and I can't figure it out, and I was trying to film it in a different room with different lighting, but this is what we get. So if you're new here, hi, hello, welcome to my channel. I'm about to talk about Euphoria Season 3, the big finale. So if you haven't watched it, if you haven't watched Euphoria at all, if you haven't watched a season, this video isn't for you because I'm going to go into spoilers and I'm not going, like, that's the disclaimer that you get. That's it. I'm a little bit annoyed because I just got off a really good, like, maybe I shouldn't have deleted the recordings and just copied the audio, but it's fine. I was going off the cuff. I can do it again. There are so many different themes to Euphoria going, or conversations, dialogues going on about Euphoria right now, that this new season was not good. I know I made a video about that previously, that the season finale was just too extra, that Sam Livingston, is that his name? I very much could be making that up. I know it starts with a Sam, and I know the last name is an L. Levinstein sounds right in my head, but again, could be wrong. Don't murder me. You know, that he's just like the super conservative, like religious leaning, you know, son of a gun. And sure, could be. But I think what's really happening is that this is a show of the nation's, like, reading levels being at an all-time low and people not having reading comprehension skills. I think the people who haven't ever passed their STAR tests are the loudest right now. Raise your hand if you know what a STAR test is. So I'm hoping that I find someone that, you know, maybe this reaches them and they get a little bit of a different perspective of Euphoria, and, you know, they can appreciate my takes and maybe see something a little bit different in the show if they were already so quick to be like, oh no, this is terrible. Because I think it's a beautifully done show. I think it hits the themes that it intended to hit, even though in the real world there was a lot going on against it. I think it's almost very Shakespearean in a way. It's almost like the Odyssey, because even how the Odyssey was written, there was a lot of drama behind that too, but that's a completely different video. So I don't know. There's multiple themes, because, right, there's that this is like a spaghetti western wannabe, that this, you know, the characters are poorly written, and like, how dare they do what they did to Rue, and there's all these all these religious themes, and I don't know where I want to start. I think I'll start with religious themes for 400. And we'll go from there. So in the promo for this season, you see it everywhere, God saves, and it's a theme used across a lot of imagery in the season, and whether it be in the directing of the show or just like the theming, you know, like the outfits, like the set design, all of that. There's just a lot of religious theming, and I think Ollie's character covers it greatly in this final episode when, you know, he talks about how religion and addiction, or like, religion is like this pretty bow that's wrapped around addiction. You can have addictions to all kinds of things: drugs, alcohol, sex, shopping, eating, religion, I don't know, BTS. And people in addiction will hit a low, and a lot of the time they only come out of that low through religion, and it doesn't necessarily have to be Christianity. It could be a number of different things. I mean, speaking of BTS, I think RM, when he was in military, like really leaned into his Buddhist faith. And I think through hard times, theology can help you through that, help you give understanding, help you give grace, help you keep moving forward, as Lexi said. Very much Attack on Titan, because that's essentially what Eden Yeager says too. And in Western media, a lot of stories circulate around those Christian stories, but I mean, any theology can bring you comfort. Like, you may be like me. My Jesus character is Naruto. Naruto to me has given me so many different life lessons, so many different, there's so many different eras in my life, stages in my life. Have I always come back to Naruto in a way that, I understand Rue holding onto her Bible, and when she's talking with Lexi, and when Lexi is talking to Cassie about these biblical stories, and how, there's sex and violence and all of these things, and people, going through things because like they kind of deserved it, and because they also kind of didn't deserve it. Like, there's a lot of that in a lot of different stories. So, I'm not trying to belittle anyone's faith or anything like that. And I'm not trying to be funny when I say that Naruto is my Jesus character. But it doesn't have to be God. It doesn't have to be the Bible. It's just in religion or in addiction. That's where that usually leads, is right into the arms of Jesus. And if you think that that's a bad thing, okay. And if you think that's a good thing, okay. I don't think that the show was trying to push a Christian agenda. I think it simply was trying to speak on a theme of addiction that is there. And I think that also goes, it's a nice little segue into this next part. So much happens in Euphoria. I'm not trying to compare it to Breaking Bad, as in like, oh, it's another like drug show with like edgy tropes and things like that. I just, like in Breaking Bad, there's a lot that happens on camera that isn't, the storytelling isn't audible. It's visual. It's kind of piecing together. It's sitting back and watching and kind of remembering little details. And now maybe, you're picking it up when you're rewatching it, or, something clicks with you because you can resonate with it a little bit more. Or maybe you're like what Alamo says to Maddie, and, you wise up and you kind of see what's going on. Or maybe you're like Bishop and you can just clock that a mile away. Everybody's different, so I think that's what makes storytelling so great too, is that you can have a really great storyteller, but also the interpretation of that storytelling and how that hits, like, there's levels to it, right? And so with that, there's the religious storytelling that are happening, but then there's also these stories of that main message of moving forward, and like just little things that I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, oh no, that was like really like a telling. Nate and Rue are covered in yellow this season, that like I can't, and I don't think that it's, again, trying to be like the Mexico filter, the Breaking Bad filter. Yellow in horror usually is just like a sign that like something drastic is going to happen to that character. Nate's house is covered in yellow, to which they show Cassie at the end. Instead of selling the house, they're redoing the house. And do they pick like a mustard? Is that like a tone of yellow? Yes, but mustard is more brown leaning, where like that house was originally like sunflower yellow, you know, bright, vivid, maybe not Pikachu yellow, but close enough. And Rue was wearing those same colors, and you know who died this season? Nate and Rue. Nate and Rue, I think, are two sides of the same coin, where Nate is a curse and Rue is a blessing. Maybe also, maybe more of like a karma. I don't know. Maybe a justice. I don't know if justice is the right word. Compassion. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what word I want to put on that, but anything Nate touches goes to hell. And like, look, like, legitimately look at what happened to Maddie. Not that, you know, living in a basement apartment is terrible, but that's not the life that Maddie saw herself living. I mean, look at Cassie. It's her wedding day and she's watching her husband get his toe cut off, to then like you know, just to go through all of that, and then just those girls opening up that casket and seeing him as he is. Yeah, like, Nate was taking them down a path that there was no return from. Where you can say Rue had addiction problems and was kind of the same way, but it seems that Rue really gave everybody a platform to stand on and take a better step forward. You know, instead of trying to claw out of something, they can walk into something. And Rue kind of going on about how she's this Moses character and she's going to go to the promised land. Maybe that was a cute way of foreshadowing her death. But I also think in a way it foreshadows how she does free her people. And I think her people being Lexi, Maddie, and Jules. Lexi's is easy because Lexi this whole season has been so judgmental and just so looking over her nose at people, and you know, the people that in her life that she loves and cares about, to the point where it's almost pushing them away or pushing her away from them. And through the sharing of the Bible and you know, maybe her having Rue's Bible is, you know, the sweetest, like, to have something so intimate from your friend. I know she called it the creepy Bible, but I don't even remember where Rue got that Bible from. I don't know if that was from Fesco, or maybe that was from Ali. I don't know, but in a way it's beautiful, and I'm glad that she has that, because I don't know. It was either that Bible, that goddamn phone that she was using as a Bible, or the sweater. And, you know, I would hate to see that sweater with anybody else. And in a way, through and again, it's poetic too, you know, through the art of storytelling, Lexi is able to learn a lesson of her own storytelling as a storyteller. And, I don't think Cassie was one of Rue's to set free. I think it was really Maddie that set Cassie free. But in order for Cassie to be free, Maddie would have to be free. And Cassie meets Alamo through Rue. Not that Rue's just like, oh, here, Cassie, Alamo, like, have this relationship. It was just a consequence of their actions. But in a way, it's through Rue. Like, if Rue wasn't the element, would their paths ever really cross? And then Maddie, you know, doesn't learn that she can't rely on these men, and does what she can to help Cassie, you know, which, hey, when you love someone, you know, you do what you can, and then ends up becoming Alamo's girlfriend. I hate to say girlfriend because that's not what it was. She was being sexually assaulted, but she couldn't just give him money, right? And through Rue making the choices that she made, I think in a way helped set Maddie free from the grasp of Alamo. Because, right, like, that wasn't going to go anywhere. He had her sitting on his lap, like, I want to have this white picket fence. And Maddie's not really in a spot where she could say no. You know, she can say, is that really what you want? Is that really what you see for me? But she owes that man money, right? Like, she was well on her way to becoming Alamo's mom. And I think that was the karma that was blooming there. And she even, like, untethers Ali from, the cycles of addiction that he was in himself. Not that Rue got him into addiction, but I think Ali's character gets tethered into this mentor figure and then just kind of tortures himself by connecting with the youth and then losing them. And just going through that cycle again and again and again and again and again and again and again. I mean, he had that whole little notebook with so many different names written in there. And how poetic is it that Rue is the last one, essentially, that we know of that's written in that book. Now, who is the young man who was dating Jules and Rue in season 2? That young man, he was listed to be in season 3. He's not in season 3 at all. And then, I don't know the name of the music guy that was supposed to do the Euphoria music. But then he pulled out and said, like, fuck you, Sam Livingston, or whatever. So there's probably drama there, but there was, and maybe his character is surrounded in that. I don't know. I know people were saying that Jules' character was like a throwaway, that she had no, like, meaning, like, why was she even there? And Rue and Jules are just like Nate and Rue, I guess, two sides of the same coin, and that's why Jules and Nate getting along in the way that they do is also very interesting, right? Because they're both opposite sides of the coin to Rue, and in so many ways, but of course they would be attracted to each other. It's like when you see the grid and it's like neutral, cool, warm, like, and where you would go on that if you do Korean skincare or makeup, or just like a color wheel. Anyway, what was I saying about Jules? So maybe there was a lot cut from Jules' character this season that we didn't get to see, and I think how Jules' character leaves us, because, right, there's not going to be a season 4, there's not going to be a spin-off of a Jules story, like, it's done. I think Jules' end is the most realistic for someone in that situation. Because Rue and Jules, I'm sure if Bishop met Jules, he would have that same caution towards her that he does with Rue. Something about her is, I don't know if unnerving is the right word, but it sounds right now. She could be this artist. Like, Rue could be sober. And, you know, is she gonna decide to make something of her artistic ability? Or is she going to trauma bond with this married man and then hope that, you know, eventually he loves her and wants to be with her? Or does she just accept that, you know, she's just this play toy and she's okay with that? Because eventually you do age, and then eventually, you know, the play toy is an old toy kind of thing. So then, like, where are you going to go with that? And there's so much that goes into that sugar baby, sugar daddy, the relationship, where Jules, you know, kind of gets the best of it, and right now, you know, she gets to live in this beautiful luxury apartment and do art and not have to worry about things. And what is she doing to set herself up? But in a way, Rue frees Jules too by getting or taking care of or eliminating this love that will never bloom. And I think it's very Shakespearean that the last interaction of, or moment of intimacy that Rue and Jules have together is where Jules tells her exactly what she wants. You know, come to me, kiss me, take me, make me yours, kind of thing. Because they could never have each other. And in the same way that Nate and Jules could never have each other. And her last moment with both of those characters, I think, is exactly what she was to those characters and what those characters were to her, you know. And I don't know, maybe there was more to Jules' story that we just, you know, got cut on the cutting room floor. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I just don't think that her character is a waste. I just think that it's the most realistic in those things. And I mean, Rue's death sets her free because she no longer has to wonder what if, or, you know, should I leave, you know, what if Rue, you know, like those lingering questions, because that's another life. Literally, that's literally another life, a different time. So all she can do is move forward, and maybe Rue lives on in Jules' art, and in a way that's beautiful. I think Jules' end catches realistically what happens when you lose someone like that, and I don't think it's a waste. I just feel like maybe people don't understand because maybe they've never lost someone so suddenly like that. Whether that be from addiction or just life being life. So that's how I think Rue truly was the Moses character. Because even with Ali, again, taking out Alamo, God did bring them together. And I think how Ali talks about like how you can have sympathy for the addict, and then you'd have to have sympathy for the dealer, and I've gone through this cycle enough times that I just see that it's good or bad, and that's it, point blank. And you know, what you do with that, you know, what you do with that is, you know, how much good are you putting into the world and how much bad are you putting into the world. And no matter what kind of trauma Alamo had as a kid, he's putting way more bad into the world than even like personally, the trauma that his mom gave him. Like, he's actually insane. He was like doing human trafficking, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So for Rue to set her people free and to be in the promised land and essentially set up the demise of this really two very evil characters, because even Lori gets taken out, you know, in all the Nazis. And I know people are pissed off at that ending and pissed off that Rue died and went out in that way, but I mean, Rue goes out the hero. And I mean, maybe it's only us, the viewers, that truly see that and truly understand that. Because I don't know how much, you know, they knew about Rue's life. Like, I don't really know how truly close she was to the people in her world, like how much she was willing to share. She was under a lot of stress and trauma, you know, and I know some of them knew about the DA, and I knew some of them knew about her Alamo experience and about the Lori experience. And I mean, fuck it, even Faye gets set free, because I mean, like, she doesn't get picked up by the cops and whatever, and it seems like she finally found like a home. And I mean, like, that boyfriend sucks. I'm not saying that he's a good guy. I'm not saying that she couldn't do better, but I mean, she also kind of deserves that, because what, Faye? Are you so stupid? You were the one that told her that there was money in the safe, you fucking idiot. But she was also an idiot with Fez and that kid too, so I mean, she deserved that. She deserves her stupid tramp stamp tattoo. Anyway, but even she gets set free, you know, by Rue's actions. And I I know that everyone is saying too that, like, right, we all know Euphoria with like the neon lights and like the glitter, and you know, like it looks more like what I currently have than kind of like the Western that you see, like the horror color palettes that you see in season 3. But seasons 1 and 2 are about being a child who doesn't understand the responsibility and the consequences of your actions. Kids are selfish. They lack empathy. They're very self-centered, self-focused. They only think about themselves, and only as you transition into adulthood do you realize that, you know, what you do. I'm not saying that high school is the best years of your life, but they are a formative portion of your life where that's setting you up for that next step or era in your life of adulthood. And I think season 3 is very much just the results of those actions as a kid. And we see it with Maddie, even with Cassie's character, because Cassie's character at the start is very much her high school image. And then at the end, she seems to be more mature, more grown up, more less delusional about who she really is. And Maddie, you know, instead of wearing the track suits, she's, you know, they're saying that she's wearing designer, she's wearing name brand. Lexi, as a storyteller, you know, is strengthened as a storyteller. Rue, though chaotic, you know, she's at least practicing mindfulness as an adult than being a unhinged firecracker, you know, as she was in seasons 1 and 2 as a kid. And I mean, everybody's taste in aesthetics change. Jules becomes the muse that I think she's always wanted to be, and has always kind of been. She's always very much been this muse character to inspire the arts, and even if she's only inspiring herself, that's fine. But I think the aesthetic, I think like the visual, like the costuming, the makeup, all of that was just so beautiful this season, and I think it stands out just as much as the other seasons. And if you're someone really hung up on like, oh, they're 20-year-olds not wearing the all over the face glitter, like, okay, I don't do my makeup the same way I did when I was a teenager. We all grow up. And the parts like Lori's house, Alamo, like the Silver Slipper, Alamo's house, all of that's filmed like 20 minutes from my house. I live in that part of the desert. Like the mountain range that they show with Rue and whatnot. It's like I can visually, because I see that view every day from my boss's office, and it's like her window, that view, and then like my boss's head at her computer. And it is very like Western. My favorite restaurant out here is Rodeo Cafe, and it's very much that, you know, you get your cowboys riding the horses down the street, and then you got the dads that are decked out in Dodgers gear driving a Tesla. Like it is very much Badlands Cyberpunk 2077. But you know, I think instead of being like a neon cowboy, I think it's just to match the tone and to match the maturity, because right, they're not in high school. The villain of this season is not Nate Jacobs. He's not the villain, and he's an evil teenage boy. God, piss me off so bad. But then you let the little guppy out of the tank into the ocean, and he realizes he's only a little guppy, you know? There's bigger fish out there. There's, you know, the bigger Armenian gangster, and then the elderly clownfish gangster, and then like the big, like, I don't know, sea lion gangster. And so that transition of like these little dramas, you know, that really only affect their lives to now something that's affecting something on a larger scale. I think that's still in the same vein of like the themings and stories of Euphoria. But Alamo isn't going to cover himself in glitter. He's a cowboy. Like what? Laura's not going to cover herself in glitter. She's, you know, a decrepit old lady that's been doing like fucking war crimes. Mass destruction to humanity for many years. You got to grow up, you know. Do you clock into your corporate job with your uh, rave makeup? I mean, you could, but let's be so for real. Your boss would probably treat you like you don't belong. You know, you would be isolated. People would judge you, and I mean, you can say fuck it, I don't care. But I mean, just be so for real. How are you gonna move forward? So for everyone saying that like, oh, they totally ruined the makeup and like whatever, I don't think so. I think I think the makeup looks just aged with their characters. That's all. Going back on Rue's death and like like the storytelling that isn't audible. When you see Alamo take the pills out, he does one of these numbers instead of like one of those numbers. Do you see what I'm doing? He knew like left hand, right hand kind of situation. And when Rue escapes Lori's ranch, it's daytime, like sometime between like 9 to 1 p.m. And by the time the medical van gets to Lori's house and then the raid happens, that's evening because the sun is down. I don't know how late. We see Alamo give Rue that pill and the money in the daytime. They probably Lori is probably living somewhere out in like Lancaster, and Alamo is probably somewhere in like not Pear Blossom, but like the mountain range, like off Pear Blossom, right before, you know, like that really gets into like LA County. There's all those mansions up on top of the mountains. Those locations are maybe an hour away from each other, if that, you know, depending on traffic. So Alamo gives her that pill, sends her home, sends her on her way, says take a week off, knowing that he's probably not going to see her again. He doesn't know where she goes, just that she goes. And I mean, he could have killed her. I don't know, I guess he could have killed her more viciously, you know? He could have been like, what the fuck is your problem, you know, and like... But he didn't. He just took advantage of like her addictions. Cause you know, right? He had like, they're playing cards and he has that big, like, oh, you're using again and like, don't get into that shit and da 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 da. And then he's gonna give her a pill? Okay. And the way that she even hesitates to take it is a little bit sad, you know, because again, it's Rue practicing that mindfulness, and you can see that maybe she has put in a lot of thought about her sobriety and things like that. I will say, she says that she's California high. We never see her smoke weed. But when she's at Jules's apartment, right, there's like little cut up lines. When we see her at like Alamo's, or you know, even at the club, how is she able to get, you know, those little party favors? Well, right, because she gives the party favors out to the girls and whatnot, you know, to give to their patrons and whatever. And I don't know, if you know addicts, like, right, they like kind of tweak out, and I know she was going through a lot of stress and things like that, but I'd have to rewatch the season again, but I think they were kind of insinuating that maybe there's like a little bit of that going on, or she's around it and doing everything in her power to like not participate in it, you know, because there are a lot of scenes where they show her reading her Bible, whether that be on the phone, through the book, through, you know, her audio. And so for her to take that pill and then he sends her, she's already at Ali's house by the time the raid happens, you know, and I don't know, does the raid happen and then she like die at the same time? I don't know. They just, you know, the scenes kind of happen amongst themselves. And I don't know. They also like don't say that they live in California in seasons 1 or 2. I think it's purposely left ambiguous, but in this season they said that all the kids left their hometown to move to California. So maybe they were insinuating that they lived outside of California. Just the moment that Rue was like already driving back to her old hometown, I knew something was up. And then when they really like were stringing along the Fezco story, I'm like, well, I know I know Angus is no longer with us in the real life. There's not anything that like, unless they're gonna do some dumb Stranger Things thing and have AI, like I don't I don't know. I was on the edge of my seat for that, but not because I'm like, oh, we're gonna see Fezco. It's like I hope I don't see Fezco. And I think that the clips that they shared instead of that, I think were beautiful. Like, I think as two young actors from the same part of the world, I think they're both from Oakland, to be on such a project and to have such opportunity, and Angus is probably the real life Rue, where everybody else kind of gets to live on, and he only lives, you know, like the Titanic, as a memory in that bubble. I thought that was really nice, but by the time she makes it back to the hometown, like I said, I kind of knew that that's where that was going. I mean, I knew this, right? She's decked out in the yellow. There's like again, the writing is on all over the walls, and I passed my star tests as a kid. I have very high reading comprehension levels. The moment they show her getting in the room and touching the plant, that's when I knew that was it. That was Rue's leaving, and she's wearing that red hoodie. We don't see her in that red hoodie once this season, except for that scene. And I hope Zendaya kept that hoodie. Like, I don't know. I know it's probably just a red hoodie from like what, Urban Outfitters, like what, you know, whatever. But that's so like iconic to that role, and it's just, I hope that she kept that, because that, I don't know, that's so iconic to her character. And I think Rue's character, in the way that Zendaya portrayed it, in the way that she was written, I think carried truthfully to how addiction gets people, how it takes people. And I appreciate that we as the viewers get to see Rue kind of for the hero that she is, and then the way that, you know, it may not have been perfect, a little bit clumsy, but she cares about her people, you know, she loves them, and she wanted them to all experience good in this life. And I don't know, I just think it's fantastical, but I think I would like to think that like when addicts leave, that's how they go, because maybe Ali was the only one that knew that Alamo gave her those drugs, and maybe he doesn't fully understand why, you know, she was given those drugs. You know, or I don't know, right? Because it's not like Rue had the opportunity to really tell Ollie like what really happened. You know, he just finds Rue's body, and then the pill container is just on top of the table, and it has his name on it, right? And he does the test, and it seems like it's fentanyl, and you know, um, and maybe Rue's mom will never get the full details. I think I think Maddie realizes in that moment when she sees Ali take care of Alamo that Alamo did kill Rue with the fentanyl, and maybe that was because of her saying that Rue was talking to the DA. We'll never know. And I think that's the point. I think that's the stuff that the viewer's supposed to chew on, right? And comprehend. And in the same way that, like, you know, well, they'll never know what happened to Nate Jacobs. He just went off, right? He owed all those people money and he ran away, and yeah, I mean that very well could be it. I don't know. I really liked this season of Euphoria. I enjoyed Euphoria as a show. I only picked it up when season 2 came out during COVID. When season 1 came out originally, I don't even remember where I was at. I just remember thinking, like, I've seen Skins. This isn't for me. That's okay. But I got to experience season 2 when that aired, and now season 3, and it's crazy to think that it's been 4 years in between the tapings or the filming, you know, or the release of those shows. And again, there's so much going on in the real world that I would love to sit down with the cast and get that story, you know, because it almost seems like in a way Euphoria is real, you know, kind of seeped past the boundaries of the fourth wall, you know, and I'm not saying that Zendaya and Sydney Sweeney, is that her name? I always want to call her Sweeney Todd. I don't know why. I don't know their relationship. I don't even know if they have a relationship. I don't know anything about those women. They're just very much, you know, living different lives. The young lady who plays Maddie, I think, I really love her as an actress. She's in a few other movies, like indie films that I've seen. I think Hunter is also a really great actress as well. I really love her. There wasn't one character, Jacob Elordi, you know, he's grown on me. Is he dating Kendall now? Yeah, sure, but I mean, whatever. Again, we all make mistakes and we all learn and we all move forward. But I don't know. I don't know what people were expecting of season 3, but I think it was beautifully done, and I think it's one of those series that just kind of sits with you, and give it some time and rewatch it when you're in a different part in life, and then maybe you pick up on some other things. I think there's a lot to kind of dissect of the characters individually, but I'm not a commentary channel. I chatted long enough, if you've even made it to the end. And if you have, thank you. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions. You know, what are your hot takes? I want to talk to people about stories, and I don't want to say that it's rare that we get good stories or stories like this that are moving. I just think this show hits a lot of things for me on a personal level when it comes to the loss of, like, you know, your teenage friends and drug addiction and, you know, online sex work and trying to find yourself as a woman outside of, like, your relationships or your dependency on relationships. And all of the things, all of the about being a storyteller and having a craft, right? And I think it's done in a. I think Euphoria captured it in a way that was just beautifully done, and I don't know how else to say that. I'm very excited that it wasn't another Stranger Things situation. Man, did I think that there was going to be another episode of Stranger Things. Yeah. So I'm really glad that I can leave Euphoria in this way. It's unfortunate that that there were actors on this project that I don't know if they, well, I don't think they got to see it to the end, you know. And I don't know, the world is so funny because we all go through so many different things, and maybe that's the whole point of this show. It's you find your thing and you keep going, because no matter how hard life is, you just have to keep moving forward. And when it feels like you can't, there's probably so many easier ways to do that, and I don't know, sometimes the world feels a little dark, and I'm not trying to get on like another tangent soapbox thing, and I'm not trying to hold up any more of your time, but sometimes I think that the world is a dark place, and it's very hard to feel hopeful, and it's hard to feel like anything that we do fucking matters, right? Because it's just like, who the fuck am I? Just someone living in the middle of the desert talking to a camera about a TV show that she watched. But sometimes life is really cool because you can just be someone in the middle of the desert talking to a camera about a TV show that she just watched. I should appreciate that I get to have these moments, because it all goes so quickly, in a blink of an eye. So if you're going through anything right now, I hope that you find your Moses moment, your euphoric moment, and keep moving forward. Because today may look one way, but 3 years down the line, it could be a different way. 3 days down the line, it could be a different way. I mean, that's a little bit shorter, but I don't know. I'm just seeing Zendaya sitting at the table at the end, and she's like, she has no scratches on her face, right? Like, she just looks gorgeous. Like, her eyebrows are like finally like groomed, not that she's not gorgeous, but Rue a lot of the time just looks like she put her finger in a socket and like was literally dragged down the road by a horse. And it was just nice to see her. Like, I don't know. It was just nice to see her at the end like that. She deserves to be on that El Paso farm, I think. But like I said, let me know in the comments down below. What are your thoughts on Euphoria? If you liked Euphoria, what are some other shows that maybe kind of touch on those same themes? I was going to talk about Alamo's like human trafficking and how it is probably so similar to the film Maria Full of Grace, but I kind of forgot about it until this moment, and I'm already so deep into this video. But yeah, just, I don't know, let's talk about stories, and I don't know, maybe I made some new subscribers, or some new viewers. If you like me having commentary on stuff, leave a like, let me know. This was kind of long. I don't write a script for these things. I'm I'm just winging it. But thank you for joining me on this week's video. as I post every week until I figure out what I'm doing with my life. Just keep moving forward. Maybe my picture should be of Eden Yeager hugging Rue. I don't know. Shout out Attack on Titan. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.